Yeah, we're live. Surprise. Haha.
Oh,
Told no one. Just did it this time.
just for fun.
For fun. Because there's so much going on. So we figured we'd just jump into a bunch of stuff. Because there's so much stuff. And I may put that clown wig on. We'll see.
Don't do that.
No? I'll change my mind if I like. If I want to put the clown wig on, I will put
That's
the clown
true.
wig
It's
on.
your choice. It's your freedom.
I'm free.
I have to deal with my own feelings.
That's right. You can be as offended as you want with my clown wig. So what do you want to talk about first, Amanda? We had so many things.
Why don't we talk about your morning mask?
My morning mask experience. Okay. Well, gather round. Let me tell you a story of profaceness. So we were out of coffee this morning. By the way, I think we're out of coffee still.
Oh, no. That's devastating.
It's a burn. It's a burn. Because it means I might have to go back tomorrow to do what I did this morning, which...
you will.
I will. I have to go maskless to the coffee shop again. You should do it. Oh, yes, and you should make a video.
Yeah, but if it's snowing, I'm not going to go.
Fair enough. We've had a blast of winter here. Suddenly come back. So this morning I went to a local coffee shop. Very small, like hole-in-the-wall coffee shop, okay? Really tiny little space. And I hadn't been there since the whole lockdown thing started. We just haven't gone there in a long time. And so I decided I wanted to go there today. They have delicious coffee. So I ended up going there and I arrived and it's really like tons of signs. It's all the signs. Specifically the one that said, no mask, no service, no exceptions.
No
Which is illegal. Which is illegal. So I figured, why don't we do this? Now, let me be really transparent. There are stages still when I'm leading up to these events. It's like I'm not always feeling super, like, 100% ready to rage, do my thing. You know, sometimes there's still anxiety and, like, or maybe just some adrenaline, right? Like, frankly, sometimes it's just a rush. And sometimes I'm an adrenaline junkie and I'm like, yeah, okay, let's do this. I'm ready. And other times it's annoying anxiety. But so I went into this tiny little coffee shop, okay? So I go in. There's only one person allowed at a time. So there's the barista behind, like, a military-grade shield that is itself, like, honestly, the top of it is, like, 10 feet off the ground. It's so tall. And it's like bulletproof glass, honestly. It's so intense. And she's super masked up. And I come in, and, she explains that she, wants to know if I have a mask. And I say that I'm exempt. She gets really nervous, and it's like, okay, all right, and starts freaking out. And then eventually decides that she'll make it for me, but she'll come bring it to me outside where it's safe. So I'm like, whatever, like, I'm going to get my coffee. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. So I go up and I pay for it, and I feel her whole body become a ball of muscles while I'm, like, tapping my credit card on the machine because it means I'm, like, in her proximity. And then I go outside and wait. Of course, all the masked people in line are very confused because everyone who goes in before them is normally masked. So when someone comes out, it means it's your turn. But so the next person tried to go in, and the person was like, no, the barista is like, no, stay out, I'm still finishing the drinks. And so she made the next customer wait outside to keep the path clear for her to, like, safely bring me the coffees without spreading COVID. And then she's masked, of course, right? And then she, like, hustles back inside, gets behind her shield, and then lets the next human into the coffee shop.
It's intense.
This is many layers. This is
that
many layers.
Obviously has, like, their own personal fears too, I guess.
Okay, so my feeling, just my sort of pop psychology intuition on this, was that it was a mix of, like, some actual paranoia about maybe contamination, but more like her workplace environment. It felt like, she was probably told to be really, really strict about this. Because look at the sign. Well, the sign is so aggressive and illegal.
A lot of, like, I just got an email from this organic grocery store that we used to go to, but I stopped going to at the beginning of the pandemic because they're acting in my opinion.
Yes,
So
they were
irrational.
irrational right from the beginning.
And I know just the vibration of the place. I don't want to be in there.
I've had
There are
problems
other
with them as
places
well.
to go. But I got an email from them earlier, and they're shutting down for several days now because one of their employees got COVID. And
Yes.
well, I also
Miss
heard
Valerie.
that in Toronto they're going to start making it mandatory, or they're going to do something. I don't know all the details, but they're essentially threatening to close businesses for 2 weeks, for 10 days at a time.
Okay,
If
this
you
is
have
insane.
a COVID, if you have a person with COVID.
It's totally insane. Okay, so think about this. Think about this. Think about, okay, so Texas and Florida, and I think there's like 19 states in the US right now that have, lifted mask mandates. And like, in Texas, very overtly, most people I've spoken to who are there are saying it is like normal. It's like you're back in 2019. There's like a few hardcore people scattered here and there, but like life has just returned to normal. Cases have plummeted to an all-time low. So you think about that, okay, happening. And here, if you get a single case of COVID in your business, you have to shut the whole business down for 2 weeks. That is just so insane. So against all science.
It's unbelievably insane.
And this is
what a threat to the businesses. What a scary, scary threat.
So now in Ontario.
So they might be acting bonkers because they're like, I don't know, will it help me not lose my business for 2 weeks?
So here's my assessment of this. They're tracking the movements that are going on. They see the people rising up. They see people saying, open your business, open your business.
Yes.
So of course, what do? They create a policy that specifically targets small businesses that says, go ahead and open, but if we track a single COVID case to your business, we can shut you down for 2 weeks.
Yeah, they're trying to scare the small businesses.
All intimidation.
Closed.
That's right. Scare tactics. That's right.
I know it's happening in Mississauga still too, because the Huff Gym is still going on and the mayor is just stewing because of course it makes her look bad and the ego gets flared up and you're like, okay, here we go. It's an ego battle.
Yes.
So, but they're still open, so
that's good. But you can see with a lot of the politicians, right? Doug Fort's the greatest example of this. It's at least nice to see how obvious it is and how he just, he just says it.
I guess so. Yeah. That's true.
Oh, hello, Amber. So it's really interesting to see that he lays it out at least and says no politician would do this without it being career suicide. Like he's very open about it, really, at least.
Yeah.
And so you're right, it's egos, right? And he's always been egoic about it, where he's like, I don't care, I'll shut it all down, like as a point of pride, And now he's saying these are the harshest measures in all of North America. Like that's a point of pride. As in, like, I'm doing so much. But here's the tricky thing. There is a minority here who's super pro-lockdown.
Yeah.
There's a minority here who is like, we're not locking down hard enough.
But a minority is a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people.
It's
so when you look around you, depending on where you are, it's quite a lot of people.
Well, and it's a voice that's propped up, of course, with the narrative.
Yes.
Being what it is, and the news reporting as they do.
Yes.
For example, CTV downplaying the entire anti-lockdown movement. Their coverage was absolutely pathetic. So here's the range of lies and just warped perceptions they created. Number one, they made it look like it was just a janky, small group of people gathered in Queen's Park, kind of like mulling around and just like talking to each other maskless. So that showed no organization. It did not show the size of the movement, so it did not show the thousands of people that show up on Saturday after Saturday. It didn't show that we become mobile and move through the entire downtown core and are escorted by police to do this. Instead, they flipped it, and they showed a montage of police and tried to make it about how many police were there. And literally, they tried to make it seem like the police presence was equal to or potentially dwarfing the small group of protesters.
You can see now that the media is geared towards extreme left-minded thinking.
Yes.
Because all they want is to say that it's about the police.
Yes.
The police, Doug Ford unleashed the police.
Well, that's
martial law, on the people, and they're focusing on the police. It's not really about the protest. And so they interviewed a couple people that you're not even sure if their quotes are from about the protest or about the police.
No idea the context.
And so you have this, sort of woman saying, I came from another country to be here.
That's right.
To not be oppressed in a way and to have freedom. But I don't know if she's talking about the police.
It was a small clip. She's like, I came here for freedom. This is not Canada. And you're like, okay, but what question was she asked? What is she speaking in reference to? All your little chopped up little clips. It's so bad. Short.
It's bad.
It's very, very bad propaganda. But it is effective on some people. Still, there's old people in their homes. We've been talking about this. There are people whose lifestyle makes it so that they're not gathering their information from the internet like a lot of people are on social media. There are people that are still just plugged into the news mostly, and they're just living their lives and checking the news. Those people I really worry about. I worry about because I check the news every once in a while, and I'm like, when they go and say, that's right. Well, it's true.
It's my dad.
That's true. Your dad is a hardcore news guy. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, because I've obviously been a conspiracy theorist for most of my life, but when I was a teenager, he'd be like, don't you watch the news? And at that point, I was like, I know there is a very clear difference here because he's never going to understand what I'm saying. He's asking me, he doesn't think that I'm aware because I don't watch the news.
Yeah. Yeah, being in the news narrative is such a blessing. Oh my God, I love it so much. I love it. I love it. I love that I check the news to watch the wacky show every once in a while, but that it just has no place. At least, I mean the cable news. When I say that, I really, really mean cable news, television, nightly news. Just does not take up a lot of real estate in my mind.
Yeah.
And I just know I benefit greatly from that. My goodness, the peace in my life from that. Think of how stressed we would be if we watched it every night. Even critically, watching it every night is stressful.
It is. It's an emotional roller coaster.
Yes, it is. Well, and being part of the movement.
Unless you're some kind of psychopath who doesn't have emotions.
But it's also more stressful being part of the movement. We're actually going out to the protest and coming home being like, no, they won't report on it. And it's really frustrating. We're like, come on, Jesus. And then people show up at CTV News, downtown Toronto, chanting, tell the truth.
I know.
And they still won't report on it. So it's very extreme.
It is extreme. And
it's extreme propaganda.
You have to keep screaming. And it's so infuriating. I've definitely had rage about it because you're outside the building door, you're as close as you can get, as peaceful as you can possibly be, to say stop telling lies, tell the truth, cover the truth. And they refuse to even say that they were outside the doors of the news station. They won't put that on the news. So it's totally really sad. It's so
really sad. And how can anyone watch that and really be flipped around? I had someone comment on it in a slightly critical way when I shared about it on Instagram, and they were like, well, what is the truth? What do you expect them to do? And I'm just like, okay, well, I don't know where to start with you because they're lying on so many levels. So I just brought up a bunch of the lies about the narrative that they've been promoting,
Yeah.
But it was minority. Most people, they're supportive. But
yeah,
we have a question, and I think it's a good one to explore, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So it says, can you explain this to me? I'm hearing all the time that the good guys have won this spiritual war and that the forces of light are now in charge of the planet. Then why does it seem that the dark forces are still in control and are pushing their tyranny on us even harder than ever? It's an excellent question. So my understanding is this. There is always a covert side to what's going on. That's just the norm. We live on a planet where there is constant, complex, covert operations operating in all countries that have that level of military operation, which is a lot of countries, right? Covert operations are constant. So there is always going to be a sort of secret war embedded within what's going on. I think that's we can always say that that's a part of what's happening, and that there's going to be this undercurrent of secret operations and activities that we don't have access to, that we're guessing at. So sure, that's true, I would say. But in terms of saying like the good guys are in control and all that, and some of that comes from the Q narrative, and some of that I also hear, in like channeled narratives when people are talking, how where it's like the light beings have now entered like our planet and our atmosphere in greater numbers than ever before. And like I hear some things like that in channel narratives.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that like even though there are these unseen and secret undercurrents, this is not where we are to get our empowerment. And if anyone is seeking empowerment from the notion that people we can't know about are in control, then I think you're just, it's the wrong place. It's going to disempower you, because it's really just another external operant, which is one of the major control systems of this matrix that we live in, is this constant referral to an external operant to experience, your own power or your own sense of just what is or is not going on. And so I think those, like the secret and mysterious aspects, are good to research, and they are a part of our world, and we do need to be aware of them, right? That's part of the study of propaganda, is what is the real messaging going on, right? They say this is the messaging, but there is something else going on. So that's good to know. But I think truthfully, we are empowered by, first and foremost, our own personal progress forward, and then what we can really track in the people, in the population, what movement is occurring in the awakening process of the population. So for example, here in Ontario, the real progress, I would say, is police here rejecting martial law, rejecting becoming officers of martial law.
Except in some cities, but mostly.
But the majority response in the province of Ontario.
It's huge.
The majority response in the province of Ontario from the police forces was, we will not be a part of enacting martial law. And so this is where, where the rubber hits the road. Yeah, we need to see real, actual action from the people. And I think that's where the Great Awakening lies. And it's not going to be clear. It's going to happen in some places really fast, and in other places more slowly, in different ways. So, I think there is an attachment to this idea that like the forces of light are totally in control. And, sometimes, some days I do feel that way from what I'm watching, and other days, nope, I'll totally flip and be like, nope, God damn it, it's all going to hell. It's all going to hell. And I have to feel that for the 5-10 minutes that I feel it or whatever, and then keep going, because that's just, how I am. I don't know. How do you feel about all that, Amanda? Because I know you see lots of that stuff too, right? And I think there's dangers in saying others are in control. They've got us, like all the time, and relying on that for your empowerment and moving through this process.
Yeah, it's just a victim mindset. And so obviously it's difficult to be a victim, and acknowledge that you're victimized by a lot of things right now, like we all are, but then not falling into the victim mentality, I guess.
Yeah.
It's delicate.
Well, it's like you have to sense when you're disempowering yourself. Where is that line where you cross over and you've suddenly started to disempower yourself in your search for power in like sort of secret narratives, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for example, if we're looking at like, the 17th letter of the alphabet, let's say that particular operation, if we're looking at it from that perspective, well, like the confidence that's being promoted in that movement is itself a known wartime propaganda tool. And I don't mean propaganda in a bad way. Like sometimes propaganda is needed for morale in war. That's like just human history, right? Sometimes people need help gathering and getting their focus straight and like driving towards an intended outcome. And sometimes that's the way people are marshaled into collective action. And so, there's elements of this that are valid where it's like, yes, but we do need to sometimes have these calls to be like, we are winning, everyone, like keep your strength, keep going, right? We're all on the right side of history. We are the silent majority. We do need to keep making those rallying cries, and sometimes the research the conspiratorial research that's pulling together that more secretive narrative is helpful in that regard. Like, I've personally been uplifted by it many times. And some of the content coming out of that community I find very inspiring. But I've also caught myself externalizing and disempowering and getting caught in that trap, which is just an old school matrix trap. Real. It's a good one. It's classic. The external operant for everything, basically. For everything. You need an external operant. You need the government to manage your health. You need them to tell you what to eat. Nanny state.
We'll take care of you.
Yeah. So, there is, I'd say, like, clear signs of awakening, but you have to look to the people and not to leaders or secret military campaigns. Like, I do believe there are operations going on, because long before any of this, there was plenty of evidence showing that there's a constant secret war going on. You have to be careful, what you're consuming. For example, with the police officer thing, yeah, there's the good news of all these officers, but then we also saw that 12-year-old, in a more rural area, where a police officer was taking Doug Ford's announcement seriously and physically enforcing stay-at-home orders, and a 12-year-old in a rural community here in Ontario was, riding around on a scooter?
Yeah, and he refused to show identification,
That's
and
right.
He was assaulted by a police officer. It's deeply disturbing. It's deeply disturbing that they would do that. It's just...
Yeah.
So now there's a call to suspend and fire this police officer, and I don't know what's going on with that, but
we'll see. We'll see, how it gets handled in a mainstream way.
The police stuff is very heated, obviously. We know.
People are super triggered about police right now. And, just those two examples we gave, those are both really triggering things. Like, let's say you're a really pro-lockdown person who's like, if we just lock down hard enough, like China, we'd be free. Like, there are people that believe that. I guess they exist.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Oh,
so
yes.
Imagine them seeing the
just
police.
2 weeks of a real lockdown. I've heard that to my face.
So many times.
If we just did, and I'm like,
just all the way. If we just took all the rights away.
That's one viewpoint. That's one way of dealing with it.
But it is not a way, though.
Way.
But it is not a way. It has no medical, scientific background. It's never been done.
It's an abusive way.
It has no history. There's no history in pandemics of
It's
locking
a way,
people out like this.
It's a way. It's an abusive.
It's a propaganda campaign. But
yes, it's.
Yeah. So you have to be mindful of which narrative you're in a moment-to-moment basis. Because look, we have a real strong attachment to narratives, And so the desire to understand what is going on, it's valid, obviously. We need to be oriented in our world. We need to understand the threats, and we need to understand, how to forge friendships and allies. And, that's the world we live in. That's real. It's true. And so you have to be able to assess your situation. You need to be able to, proceed with awareness of what's occurring. If I didn't have a clear concept of propaganda and the danger of the news, then my home would be a more dangerous place for my children.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's important to understand that. And I think you want to gather enough knowledge to be able to thrive, but also know that there's going to be part of you that is going to be entrained into wanting to know more than you need to know. I'll say that for sure. That there's finding balance when you're chasing the narrative right now, because everything is happening so fast, right? It's so hard to keep up with what's actually going on, especially when you're trying to track secret narratives that are already cryptic and difficult to track. And now the news cycle is 10 times more fast in how quickly things turn over and the next story comes up. So it can get really stressful because our desire to be oriented is valid, but also there's an element of social engineering in the way that content is produced and delivered to us that makes us want more and more and more and more and more beyond that point of finding what you need to know that's just enough to proceed harmoniously. And I'm not speaking of as a master of this, but I do understand those boundaries and do sometimes apply them, and it's a practice I'm building. But I think that's a real struggle for a lot of people. Differentiating what you really need to know to live harmoniously versus like being one of the ones to figure out the narrative.
Well, and especially if you're into human design, if you have an open, you might be more attracted to getting distracted with a lot of different things. And I know you and I both have open third eyes, so it's great because you can receive a lot, but at the same time,
what I've found works with that is having enough projects that I'm passionate about going so that when I have one of those moments, I can channel it into different work rather than just be distracted, which sometimes is just what happens. Like, the social media moments or...
It's an inner knowing.
Yeah.
But, it needs maintenance, I think. That's why it's not something you just get and then you just sit with it. I think it's something that you just need to constantly do.
Yeah.
If you want to be informed and you also want to be healthy and mentally balanced.
And healthy, I know. That's a really tough triad these days, honestly. Like,
being informed?
Being informed, healthy, and like mentally balanced. This is a very difficult, path to tread. We're doing it. We're doing it.
But it's a practice.
Speaking of that, I don't think we mentioned the whoopsies. Good old whoopsies they announced. Really? Which is quite the whoopsies of the martial law.
Oh, right. Then taking it back.
They took it back. Okay, so Doug Ford very passionately and confidently and with other experts held a press conference stating that police now have this power and that this is basically a police state, right? It's martial law. So what he's announcing, without saying it, it is, because it means anyone can be stopped, detained, interrogated, their home address and personal information can be recorded. That's
so threatening.
Okay, so it's super threatening. It's martial law, right? So obviously there's been a huge uprising against this from all levels of people. I think I mentioned this last time. That
we unite on this.
There's united. There's like pro-masker, hardcore people who are like, absolutely not. We're going to the park with our kids.
Defund the police people.
Yeah.
Black
you have like
Matter,
across the political spectrum.
Everyone
saying
agrees this is bad.
So there's a united non-compliance going on to a certain extent across the political spectrum from this. And so what do? They announced that this was a mistake. It was an internal error, miscommunications. We didn't really mean to impose martial law. It was just sort of like, whoopsies, martial law.
That was a really big
Sorry. Sorry we imposed martial law. We didn't mean to. It's a whoopsies.
No.
It's a little whoopsies.
You don't get whoopsies in those situations.
Well, I took away your rights, so sorry. I ripped your fundamental rights from you. Whoops.
Sorry.
So, clearly it's working to a certain extent. You have people uprising across the political spectrum and policies getting backtracked. Now, that's a small victory. That's a battle in a war. Don't get me wrong. There's lots to go. Because if they can hold on to this while all these places in the U.S. are opening up, they got a pretty good grip on the people right now. We're going to have to fight harder, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think this ends in any other way than our freedom.
Well, that's why I was also, cat hair me. About the masks, and I think really kind of just like, again, applying a little bit more like gentle pressure if you're feeling like exploring that, especially if you live like in Ontario or in Toronto.
Yeah.
Too, like just trying to take off the mask if you've always wanted to do it.
Yeah,
or
please
if you
try.
Don't do it
Like, pick a situation.
Like, it's just
right.
So,
start slow.
It feels like there's a momentum and that you'll be supported, and obviously don't do anything because they are threatening situations.
Yeah, like don't go on the internet and do exactly what someone tells you to do. Obviously, use your own discernment. So, I'm definitely out there
like
saying take it off, but yeah, there is momentum. We've seen it. We saw proof of momentum.
And it's good because lots of things happen in waves. And so I think like we can honor the fact that things happen in waves. And so, yes, there were people who were the first wave and they always rejected masks. And then there were people like mid-lockdown who were like, you know what, fuck this. Like, and now there's more. And now with the study from Harvard, I think?
Stanford. Stanford study.
That obviously they're not sharing too much, but people have found. I've seen it myself.
Quietly, I think what was they did the study and released it quietly with no fanfare or media, and then people found the study and were like, "What's all this then?"
Yeah, exactly.
It's all bunk. It's nothing. The masks are nothing.
The masks can potentially be harmful and things that we knew all along. So, and now we have to like also prepare for like another wave of people that like do look to these kinds of studies for
validation of like what to do, right?
Yeah, like many people, and so this may be the tipping point for another wave of people, and to really support the people who are just like maybe going, okay, this is starting to make me tip. I'm tipping. Like the study is a tipping.
One of the things I'll say
like,
too is that
like we can welcome people like, humbly and with grace and all of that to ease into something, because there's so many people. Like if we really want people to like wake up, then I think
then you grab them by the cheeks and just scream, "Wake up!" Right? You just sometimes. But no, I see what you're saying. And my invitation to people is to try it. In one or two situations, like build up to it slowly. Try it in one shot. Or you don't have to go full cold turkey and go crazy. If you've been wearing it the whole time, this is like
ease in.
Be mindful of your own psyche.
Go to a different neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly. Like take care of yourself.
Especially like I know how it is. Like if you are like you've been traumatized with other things in the past, like it's not going to be easy for you to just expose yourself.
No, there's real stress involved. I decided early on that, well, you and I are part of the spectrum, right? I decided early on that I was like basically never going to wear it. It's just too infringed on my freedoms too hard. I'm way too hardcore. Like freedom is so important for me. Which I really realized more deeply as this all happened. It like highlighted that for me. I was like, whoa, that is a strong value for me. So good discovery. But for you, it just wasn't like that. You were just in a different place. You were just willing to, for you, it was creating more harmony to move forward by wearing the mask a lot of the time, right?
Yeah.
And so between the two of us, really, there's been quite a spectrum. But I've been thinking about your experience of now shifting after having been in this neighborhood and participated in that ritual. And I think, there's something really valid about saying it was harming me. And I cannot do it anymore,
Yeah.
For some people, it's like let's say in the weird scenario where someone is overtly, explicitly like, I've seen you used to wear a mask. Why are you not wearing your mask? There can be an honest realization of, wow, this was really bad for me. I stopped.
Yes, of course. And like the sort of idea again that your body doesn't change in a year's time.
A year is a long time. That's right.
Nearly
so maybe,
a year that we've had the mask since like last June. So it's like, well, yeah, lots of people would probably need to take the mask on and off at various times. I mean, we know that the mask is not good. The other thing is difficult though, is like the group of people who believed the masks were protecting. And so that's different from a huge amount of people who are wearing them just to avoid confrontation.
The social compliance element,
so many people wearing masks who know they're harmful, who have to wear them for work and to avoid like the threat of someone, or to keep the harmony, or if you have kids, like all this stuff, if you're going in a store. There's so many, I believe that the majority are people wearing them compliantly to avoid, like,
I don't think it's fear of a virus.
Of course you can fight for your rights. Of course you can fight for your rights.
It's social compliance.
But there's so much out there that's scary. It takes like so much in you to have to be fighting all the time. And so I respect people choosing when they want to fight and when they don't want to fight.
Yeah, you pick your battles.
You just choose for yourself. And so there's a difference when you're aware, you're like, the mask is harming me. Like when I wear a mask in a store, I get complete like oxygen, like right away at the back of my head. I can feel it. I'm like, oh my God, halfway through I have to remove the mask. I can't imagine what people suffer through. I see people suffering through it.
Oh yeah, I see sick people that should not be wearing masks, and most people.
This is where I get upset, and I'm like, "Excuse me."
I just also see everyone contaminating it like right away, which is it's disgusting.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
No,
it's
I know.
gross. It's gross. It's really, really gross.
There's no way that's.
I saw this guy with a really hip one today at the coffee shop, actually, where it was like this really hip mask that was like denim, and it like folded up and clipped onto his belt and like hung there, and he was just like, yeah, clipping his little denim mask and putting it like loose to just hang in the wind. I mean, you're like,
gross.
How is that clean? It's gross.
It's not stopping a virus.
And also, there's the cell service thing that occurred here, which is a bit mysterious. We've seen some weird info around that.
Yeah.
So the largest cell provider in Canada, Rogers, went down for a whole day. Massive outage. Massive outage. And then this screenshot of someone talking to a Rogers employee started getting shared around, and the Rogers employee was inferring strongly that they couldn't speak about what had happened because it was potentially a national security threat. And then later I did see some info that it was a hack. A giant hack.
Oh, really?
Oh. That's what someone said. This is hearsay.
That would make sense, though, because it was
something like this.
For like 8 hours.
Huge. So when you look at something like this and you think, obviously you speculate, you got to speculate. First thing is definitely CCP. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to communications.
Yeah. CCP, I'm like, right away, probably. Good chance of that, but
good chance.
It was pretty epic. And it's there's so much going on where you're like, okay, well, this could be part of that secret war. I mean, this gets back to it, right? Where it's like,
secret war stuff coming to the surface.
It seems like
people.
Or it's the white hats attacking Rogers because Rogers is super corrupt and has been working with the CCP, which I'm pretty sure is actually true, because they push hardware on people for free that has been known to have CCP software in it.
Yeah, we have that.
Yeah, they gave us just a free ZTE iPad or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked it up and it immediately was able to find articles on that company being accused of having Chinese spyware in it.
It's like, hey, have this free.
Here, take this free tablet that it was like 2 years of free cell service on this tablet.
You're like, 2-year data mining experiment.
Okay, so what we did is we took it and never set it up because they can't spy on us.
Well, we didn't do the research until after. We were like, yeah, sure.
I know, but I had a feeling. That's why I didn't set it up. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take it because you want me to have it so badly, you weird Rogers person. Yes. CCP is the Chinese Communist Party.
Yes.
So, yes, to refer to my earlier comments, this hack could be CCP related because Canada is extremely compromised by the Chinese Communist Party in many bad ways. Like Canada's been training Chinese communist soldiers on our soil at our facilities. Lots of other things that we don't need to get into, but it's very compromised, unfortunately. Here, it's not good. So when I see a massive hack of our largest communications company, it does make me wonder, although if they're already working with them, which it seems like they maybe are, then maybe the hack is white hats. You know what I mean? We can't really know. So you hold the information lightly. It does look like the war bubbles up to the surface every now and then. You hear booms happening in the ground. You're like, okay, maybe they're bombing deep underground military bases. Sure, possibly. But here's the thing. Without full disclosure, there's just going to be a ton of stuff like that we never, ever know or find out, right? Things may come to the surface, things may not. I don't know. But the goal here is to get people taking action by standing up for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's really the main goal. You can't stand up for people, right? You can't stand up for someone and stop them from getting an adult from getting the shot, right? The idea is to help people realize their freedom and sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
And if that secretive narrative helps you sometimes do that, sure. If that research brings up material that you feel could have that end result, then it's a good resource.
Yeah.
But it can also be used to slow people down and to, mess with the process. You got to be careful what seeds you're planting. And I say that as someone who's just planted the wrong seeds, who spent so much energy, misapplied energy with information. Because it's hard to know what to track and share and follow, and there's so many narratives, and there's so much to expose. But I think, it's like you've been talking about a lot, like trying to hold space for like many different narratives, really.
Yeah, like the more, I don't know, that's sort of my philosophy, I guess. Like the more views that you can hold, the more expansive you are, the more accepting you are. That's not your view.
Yeah.
But you can hear the other person's view. You can disagree with their view. You can allow their view to exist. You don't have to cancel it.
Well, so here's the thing. This is important. Because we're arising...
It's a level of flexibility.
You need the flexibility. Well, because your flexibility... Okay, a bunch of people being flexible in this collective makes the collective flexible. If enough of us become flexible, then the collective gets a bit of flexibility, gets some elasticity, which can support people's awakening so that there's less casualties in the trauma of awakening. Amanda and I have been talking about this a lot, and it is a pretty important topic, because if this is too much like, rip it off like a Band-Aid, then we literally lose people. Like you just lose more people that maybe you didn't need to lose. You have way more suicides than you needed. You have, I don't know, whatever. I don't know what it is.
Because there's a lot of individuals in the group. And I know we can't always focus on the individuals, but I really like to focus on individuals.
That's your jam.
It's my jam. So there are times when we need to look at it as a group, but there are so many individuals that need unique things, and I think that a lot of people would get lost with the Band-Aid method because of things that you and I can't conceive of, because we don't live that life, because we don't have those views, because we don't have that lived experience. So we need to just hold a lot of unknown space for those things to just blossom. I feel like for those people to blossom naturally.
Yeah, like you said, people who needed that Stanford study, right? People who it wasn't enough to see friends sharing on social media. There are people who just needed that Stanford study who are like, okay, fine, yep, now I'm taking off.
I could feel it. I was like, this is it. And it is what it is, and let it be, and be grateful for that.
It's true.
And let that be that person's journey. Stop trying to control them. Stop trying to control their awakening. I say that to myself too, because I know I've definitely tried to do that so many times.
Absolutely. We have a question. Would you say that Canada is compromised or working in partnership with the CCP?
Well, I don't know. I think there's a partnership going on. Look at Justin Trudeau.
I guess that's partially what I mean when I say compromise.
Right.
I mean, Trudeau is obviously a communist. It's true, or has great reverence for communism.
He has said it outwardly. There's many.
Yes,
many
he reveres. He reveres.
He admires their tactics.
And his father did too, right? They both were overt admirers of communism, if not communists themselves. Or that's a bigger question. But I would say when I say compromised, I do mean that there are partnerships, because I guess that's part of the compromise, is that there's people in our government and our military that are willingly supporting the Chinese Communist Party and their military.
Yeah, true.
So that is the compromise to me, to a certain extent. I know that our military is training Chinese soldiers, so obviously people in our military have partnerships with people in Chinese military. I know that the FBI openly announced that Huawei is being used to spy on North Americans and is an actual national security danger. And so even after that was announced, I know that the Canadian government partnered up with Huawei for the 5G here, despite that announcement and against all advice from experts. So yes, there's a partnership right there we can see where they're just like welcoming Chinese communist spyware into the Canadian infrastructure.
Yeah.
Now this is it happening overtly. You got to wonder what they've been doing, in backdoor deals, and this is just them flaunting to a certain extent what a lot of what they've probably already been doing, and they're like, now we can be public about it. We can do more, even.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. It's tough. But I think there's a certain amount of pressure that people need to wake up. I think that's part of it too. Even if there are sort of white hats in any level of control, I just think that the catalyst is going to come from what people need. I know that's hard to say, but I think humanity's needs for awakening are complex. They're very, very complex. We're in a very tangled place.
Yes.
And it's it's just delicate and difficult to unweave, to untangle. It's just messy. Like, it's so messy. And so it's not going to be clean, right? We can't expect a clean awakening. I think that expectation is false.
Yeah, it's going to be
it's going to be messy, emotional, asymmetrical, sloppy, unexpected, janky. Generally, janky. The awakening will jank forward awkwardly in ways that are hard to predict.
Okay.
I don't know.
Interesting. Okay.
That's my prediction.
Yeah. But that's just being human. That's humanness. So when I think of what a human awakening looks like, I think, okay, I know it in my life.
Yeah.
And someone can have many awakenings in a life.
I wonder what happened to that barista today. Maybe it helped her.
Maybe
I don't think
she's unable to sleep now, and you're just floating in her mind.
Maybe. Am I living rent free in her head? I don't know.
And pictures of COVID she's seen on the news.
She's having a nightmare of a news article on an outbreak starting at the espresso shop.
Oh, God.
It is. Yes, it's true. Birth pangs. It's true. It's humanity's birth pangs. And that's hard, man. That is not to downplay it, because it's suicidal children. Those are super real birth pangs. It's rough. It's ugly. It's messy as heck.
Yeah.
But this planet's been under lockdown this whole time. This is just the overt shit. Okay? We've been living under a socially engineered sort of psychic lockdown. We're just stepping into our potential. We're just waking up. So really, the whole lockdown scenario is just a worldly manifestation that's very easy to grapple, actually. It's kind of elementary. When you consider how complex and sort of more subversive it was before, and now they have to be kind of heavy-handed and clunky, and you're like, oh, I see, a lockdown. Yeah. And people are like, now there's something really clear to fight and get against, and it's I don't like being locked down. No, when it's it's all based on the same systems of manipulation that were in place before. None of them are new. None of it is new. It's just grappling us in a little bit more of an overt way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so again, that's the thing where it's some people needed it to be that aggressive, right? It wasn't enough that they were just being manipulated mentally. They needed physical, legal changes to arise. They just needed it. They needed it.
Yeah, I don't think we understand just the level of stuckness.
Yes.
In ourselves.
Yes. I don't understand my own stuckness. I just sometimes glimpse it. I'm like, whoa, I'm so much more stuck than I thought. Shit. But that's either you humble yourself or you get upset and harden.
Which is probably could be part of the problem already.
Well, the vague rules. The vague rules are causing all the hardenings.
I know, the vague rules are giving people opportunities to control.
I don't like the vague rules. But I want to study it more. I'm fascinated by this.
What, vague rules?
The effect that vague rules have on human populations.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It is
what it does to the mind.
Absolutely fascinating.
How your mind just tries to do something with it.
Wow, yes. Yes, we did. That's why, like, everyone's rules are different. Jankily, like, it's fascinating.
No exceptions. That's my rule.
So interesting. Anyways, do we have anything else that we wanted to share today? That was a good little run-on from all the things that we wrote down. Yeah. Is there any questions or anything here? Oh, yes, I know. My video on the vagueness. Now you can see that what it was inspired by. Because it's an actual Chinese communist tactic.
He talks about the vagueness a lot.
I do talk about the vagueness a lot. Because
yeah,
that's really it's clarifying this whole thing for me. So the history of Chinese communist warfare is that they use top-down vague rules to cause a specific kind of chaos in the population. I don't know if I've talked about this on our lives before, have I? I may have ranted about this before. I don't know. I'm an old man. But the point is that they use this historically. And so what they do is they create really vague rules from the top. And what happens is bureaucrats and politicians and little Weasley military people and whatever, they all scramble to look like they're putting forward the vague rules in the best possible way. So that everyone is like trying to be as strict and as hardcore as they can to try to please like their superiors and to try to not lose their job or to lose like the mob, the support of the mob, right?
Yeah, it's political.
It's political. So it becomes this trickle-down effect of the further down the vague rules get, the more sort of like chaotically people try to prove themselves. It's crazy, but isn't that
to security guards at the mall asking you what you need to do?
No, down to parents and their children.
Yes, it's true.
Right down to parents and their children, where then what's happening is the parents are getting the vague rules and they're making their own strict craziness. And so you see like double masked children who like aren't allowed talking to each other, like threatening those children if they touch or move their mask. Like, so you see, and they, for them, that's like they were given these vague rules and they're like, but how do I do them the best? They're so vague. And then people panic and they do awful things. This is,
I guess, but then
we didn't know about this part of ourselves. We didn't realize it, right? We didn't realize this aspect of ourselves. And it's one of the ways we're being puppeteered through this whole thing. Yeah. I'm going to make content on this. Absolutely. I'm going to make a documentary or something on this. It's too amazing. It's too fascinating. And if we don't want this to happen ever again, we need to figure out why vague, all they had to do was make a bunch of vague rules. We went chaos. We went crazy.
Yeah.
We went cuckoo.
Well, critical thinking skills, I don't know, on the lower level, but politicians-wise, oh man.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. It's nuts. But so much learning, and it's good. I'm having a good time. Woo! I'm having a good time. This is the awakening. It's real. It's happening. It's totally happening, guys. Tap in. For anyone who was like talking about this like 10 years ago, was like humanity will awaken. It will be a time of chaos. Like, a lot of us were like ready. We're like, yeah, it's coming. The ascension is coming. And like, check this out, guys. It flipped. It's so real. And so now people are thirsty. Like, yeah, but what's the next best flip? But hold on, we just had a massive flip.
We're addicted to the flip.
Like, just chill on wanting another big flip. Okay, let's process this one.
We're high. We're in our adrenaline phase right now, so just let's ride it.
Yeah.
It's a transformative time.
It is. It is absolutely the most.
Yeah.
God, I'm being transformed. It's amazing.
Great.
Yes, I know. It's like chaos with like religious rules. It's like with the Bible and stuff too, right? It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Did I have a shot of vodka in my juice tonight? Well,
you're amped up.
Yeah, I'm trying to be, part of it too is that, to be honest, I'm trying to really like actually allow my true self to be more available. Like, because for me, I have an instinct to make a lot of really controlled, precise content. Everything's like super scripted and controlled and edited. And I need to like allow my feelings to come forward more naturally and not super control all my content all the time, which is why I'm trying to go live more. And also, people don't realize having only seen that part of me, that like I professionally was a comedic actor for years and years and years. So my kooky side is a little bit shocking to some of the people who are used to more disclosure-y, reportery type Simon, like revealing the truth in certain ways. But actually, I was a kooky, like wacky murder mystery dinner theater actor.
That's true.
You know, that was paying the bills. That was paying the majority of the bills for a long time. God, I love that job. Yes, I know. I need to do more humor. I'm working on it. I have some ideas. Something larger and more controlled and edited. But yes, also. In addition to more comedy and social media, I want to do more stuff that's real, like a show. But I won't say more than that right now. Well, thank you for noticing, Dale. I appreciate that.
Yeah. That's true.
Yes, TikTok. Guys, we're learning to use TikTok. Amber's here and she's learning to use TikTok.
I'm learning. I'm here too. I started like 2 days ago.
We'll help each other. You know what? I post and then I turn it off. I don't go on. I don't look. I don't do anything.
I've seen a few funny videos though.
It's good. We'll get into it. We'll let China spy on us some more. You know what? For me, it's like I'm so fancy free about it because I live in Canada where I'm obviously being spied on by the Chinese Communist Party. So I use TikTok, whatever.
It's like, well, what's the point? What's the point? You might as well use it.
I live in Canada. I've
become apathetic about TikTok. I'm using it now.
Go ahead, spy on me. I don't care. I'm against you. You knew that.
It's fine. I have nothing.
All right, well, let's wrap this up. Let's go have some dinner. Thanks for hanging out, guys. We appreciate and love you.
Yeah, awesome.
We really do. And, come chat with us anytime. And we put the links in for our store and our products and our friends that have helped us produce those things. So check those links out also. And thanks to everyone who comes for the replay and wasn't here live. And we love you very deeply.
Much love.
Yes, so much love. We'll see you soon. Bye everyone. Just awkwardly lean in and yes, and